So I'm going to tell everyone who's listening to the show a secret. So, okay, don't tell anybody this part.
Okay,
I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to the people who are listening. Just keep it a secret.
Okay, go.
Good software companies tend to build what their customers tell them to. And no one is telling us to go do this stuff. No one out there is like, where's my headless product? They're like, why isn't this button the color I want it to be? I don't mean to be that belittling. A lot of our customers ask for really great, smart things. But they often ask for things that are trivial, that don't move business needles. And this is the thing that would have the most transformative impact on how they interact with what the software they depend on actually does.
Welcome in. This is AI for Restaurants, a show where two practitioners who actually use AI every single day and work with restaurants every day, talk about what's really working in the industry, and have some fun along the way. This is episode 8, Aaron. We're almost to our goal of 10. Oh, wait. Introduce yourself real quick.
Hi, I'm Aaron, and I traveled a lot last week and burned almost no tokens, and I feel like I have withdrawal.
Wow, you burnt no tokens last week?
Like almost. By my definition, almost no tokens.
So only like a couple 100 million. And I am Sterling Douglas, co-founder and CEO at Chowly, a digital platform for restaurants. We help restaurants make more money. But I do want to double tap on that real quick. What is a low amount of tokens for you in a week?
I can actually answer this question by looking at this product that my CTO built.
Is it called Token Flex? Because I know that's your favorite thing to do.
So the week prior to me traveling, I spent 1.4 billion tokens.
Okay.
Last week traveling, I only spent like 400 million tokens. So,
all right. Last week was a heavy use case for me. Let me just do a quick check. You said you're at 400?
Yeah, 400 last week.
550. It'll be probably the only week I burn more tokens than you. So that is exciting stuff.
Well, that is a red letter date that definitely deserved making on the podcast.
And with that, that's actually a really good segue into our first topic today. So I have this concept in my head versus a product code base, right? That's everyone knows, you have your code base in GitHub, GitLab, whatever. Your product lives there. It's your code repository. I believe that companies of the future are also going to have a operations code base, an operational code base. I think the operational manual moves into GitHub and starts living as code in the form of markdown files, which is usually where my tokens that I burn go. So I'm curious what you think of that.
I agree. I think that, the barrier for creating something that lives in a production environment, which I define as something that is accessible to the internet, and, it has to be up all the time and multi-tenant usage kind of thing. So if you have a mobile application in your restaurant and you take orders, that's a production environment.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the thing that you do internally, which maybe has less business risk if it doesn't work, if it shuts down, it doesn't turn into a fire. And
if I take it down with like a bad push, like we just go do things, the manual way for a little bit until it goes back on. A little harder to do when, we integrate orders into a restaurant and that goes down.
But I also think that there's so many things that come with creating a production environment for software, the biggest of which is security. Assume that anything you put on the internet is being attacked at all times. I would say a meaningful, call it 5% of our R&D time that we spend is on, trying to prevent bots from penetrating into stuffing the system with credit card numbers to find real ones, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. No, I mean, especially with, all the news around Mythos, I think that'll only become more and more true.
Yeah.
The easier it is to build stuff, the easier it gets to find stuff and penetrate stuff. But I am curious on, when does it stop? Like, right, you have your operation code base, you might have a product code base. Like if I'm a restaurant, I think about like, okay, stuff I can build myself, right? Versus stuff I'm going to use a vendor for. I know you have some thoughts on this, so I'm gonna pick at that.
I think the primary definition is that there's like this really like a gradient, blurry, downward slope kind of thing, where if you start working with Claude of like, I do this thing every day and it's annoying and it uses my time. And Claude is like, well, why don't we just codify that into a workflow that I can do for you? So you do that. And then you use it and you keep telling it to be smarter and be better. And at some point it says, you know what? Instead of you burning tokens to do this, why don't we create a Python script that does it for you every day? And you're like, that's great. And then you're like, but I want to see it. And then it's like, well, we need a dashboard. It's like, well, if we have a dashboard, then we need a database. And it's like, you slowly end up building over time this organic solution that does work for you. And that's like a very natural progression. And then there's this cliff that you should not jump off of, which is to put that thing on the internet. Never do that. And when I think about like a restaurant in this equation, what I think they should be doing is they should absolutely be using something like Claude to collaborate, to do massive amounts of their work. But they would never say, and now I don't need a point of sale. Like you would not. You would not.
No, it's Claude, make a point of sale, make it really good, make no mistakes, take your time.
Right. I mean, the reality is that there's definitely a company out there that has a bunch, like whatever, has like 4 founders who are telling themselves they're going to go rebuild the point of sale. Every single industry has some small number of crazy people who are like, I'm ready to go and disrupt this industry by having Claude rebuild the whole thing. Most people aren't those people. And if you're not those people, then don't try it because Claude's not good enough to do it.
There's a very big difference between being really good at running a restaurant business and really good at running a point of sale business. I tell our customers all the time, it's like, I will never know more about your business than you, but I do know more about websites.
Well, yeah, I know a lot about my business. I even remember one time, I won't name the brand, but I was sitting across the table from a person who ran digital at a very large national brand. Mm-hmm. And they were trying to decide if they should buy our product and use our extremely configurable, customizable mobile applications or build their own. And he flat out asked me, he was like, why do you think you can do this better than me? And I said, because I build software for a living. I'm really good at it. And I know that I am better at building software than you if that's not what you do for a living. We did not win that deal. But the
sales rep had some feedback.
I mean, that's why you do not bring me to the sales call. I saw their trajectory after we lost that deal and I stand by my words. But regardless, the point that I'm really trying to make is that, yes, people whose business is to go and do that thing will always be better at it if it's not your business. And the problem is that if you think that Claude completely covers that ground for you, I think you're delusional. Yeah. But there's a middle ground of, I don't know how to build software really well, maybe, but I do know what my workflow is and I would like to make it faster. Yeah. And so this idea of I'm going to build an internal suite of tools that make my life better, even if they're made out of sticks and glue, I would never have the budget to go pay a professional to do it. And if I asked a vendor to do it, they would charge a lot of money and give me an imperfect solution. I think it's a great place to start with throwing Claude at the problem.
Local dashboard that helps pull in data from some of your different tech vendors.
Great example.
Yay or nay?
Yeah, totally.
Yay. Big yay. Okay. Hosting your own mobile app and using Claude Code to help you deploy it.
Absolutely
Yay or
insane.
Nay?
Absolutely. You should not do that.
Big nay. How about a script that runs every week and compares your sales numbers to your staffing hours and maybe suggests some staffing changes?
I'm totally in for that. Yes, totally.
All right, last one. A personal to-do application that helps grab the different surfaces, whether they're transcripts from notes or meeting notes or data pulls, and putting them in one place for you to manage your to-dos.
What you're really describing is something we talked about in the last episode a bit around the spectrum from I'm going to use this thing to make myself a little faster to I'm going to use this thing to eliminate big chunks of work that I do. And then you take a step further to I'm going to build something that other people use. And then at the end of that spectrum is I'm going to build a public product that is on the internet. I don't think that people who don't build software for a living should do that last step. I think that if you start on the other end, like manage my to-do list, you're going to have limited impact on the business around you. So it's mostly, are you learning how to get good at using Claude to do things? And then it's mostly a progression towards, I now build something that half of the people in the company use, massive return. But as long as you stay away from the question of blast radius can create enormous business risk, then I'm all in.
Man, blast radius, term I learned the hard way.
What did you do?
A month or so ago? Well, I did something that had a much wider blast radius than I had thought, and it didn't have quite as many guardrails
Mm-hmm.
as it should have had on it.
Was the only consequence that you spent token money that you didn't mean to?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, I had a moment like that where I had a thing that I was like, I'm going to try and make this happen. And I turned it on and I thought it was working great. And then I started wondering why my computer suddenly was out of RAM. And then I got a message from my CTO saying like, what are you up to today? You're burning a lot of tokens. I bet it's interesting. And my response was like, oh no, because I had just accidentally run it 500 times in parallel and was cranking through tokens.
Yeah, it was similar. I was building kind of an auto dispatching for my to-do list. So I had all these tasks that were sitting there that had not been touched. And so it started auto dispatching them. So it was, a few hundred sessions all got started at once.
This is an interesting thread for us to
That's
pull.
blast radius.
All right.
That's blast radius.
All right. So if we're talking about building tools that run the operations inside the business, you taught me a very interesting lesson months ago, which is that all roads lead to daemons. A daemon is a thing that is a long running process on your computer that is like looking for work to do. Instead of a thing that you say, you click a button and make it happen, it is just on and looking for things to go and tackle.
And this is what OpenClaw really popularized and pushed forward.
Totally. And so, I was getting inspired by hanging out with Sterling and I was like, maybe I should make a daemon. And then I accidentally spent a bunch of money on tokens I didn't mean to. So it's a good example of how there are some dangerous places that you can get even when you're building internal software. But if I think about the kinds of things that if, like a normal person who doesn't work at a software company should be doing on their own, I think they should be demanding that most of their software platforms that they pay money to build headless products. And they should be building the glue between those products using Claude themselves.
Yeah. All right. So I want to talk about headless products because this is, it's funny. This is an idea I've had probably for a year. I think when I first discovered, I think it was like the first MCP I used. This was back in like March of 2025. I used an MCP and I had this idea of like, oh man, like this is the direction that products are going. Like products are going to be interacted with, through a chat interface. But then as I got more into it, I was like, well, it's not just quite interacting through a chat interface. Like there's still tons of reasons why you need like a real user interface. And then there's all like these different services. And I've had this idea in my head of like where I think this market is going. And you mentioned the term to me of this like, headless products. And then I started thinking about, oh man, that's how I use like everything. A Deepgram, like that's a headless product. I've never logged into that except to get an API key. It's the same thing with like SendBlue. Same thing with like even like Google search ads. Like I used it a ton last week. I didn't go to the UI once.
Yeah.
Right. But I was using like tons of different parts of the product. And so then it started to click for me that, oh man, like that is actually what we need to be. Like the idea of a headless product, that is how restaurants should be, be interacting with their vendors. I love this idea. It was a breakthrough moment for me. Those two words you said.
Well, I mean, like I'm a little frustrated that ours isn't yet public, and there's a reason for
ours isn't. Ours isn't either. Like we don't have Charlie's not have this product yet.
So Thanx is architected in a way that would make a headless product easy for us to bring to market. Mm-hmm. In that our entire merchant-facing tool, the whole dashboard where you log in and create things and so on, it's all powered by an API behind it. So everything you can click on with a mouse or type in with your keyboard and hit save can be done via API. It's just not a public API. So all we really need is, to be able to issue you an API key and then have some, guardrails to make sure you don't do something you shouldn't. So it's a relatively light lift for us. And I'm definitely frustrated that we have not, shipped ours yet. But there's a reason for it. And I'm gonna tell everyone who's listening to the show a secret. So okay, don't tell anybody this part.
Okay,
I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to the people who are listening. Just keep it a secret.
Okay, go.
Good software companies tend to build what their customers tell them to, and no one is telling us to go do this stuff. No one out there is like, "Where's my headless product?" They're like, "Why isn't this button the color I want it to be?" I don't mean to be that belittling. A lot of our customers ask for really great, smart things. But they often ask for things that are trivial, that don't move business needles. And this is the thing that would have the most transformative impact on how they interact with what the software they depend on actually does. So Thanx, as a software industry and as a software company, almost every product that we buy is headless. Indeed, I would start to probably organize our software buying to be, if you don't have an API or an MCP, I don't know how I'm going to work with you because I live in Claude now. Restaurants aren't quite there yet, so they aren't yet telling us that their number one ask is a headless product so they can do their work through Claude. It's starting to percolate, but it's like 4 customers out of hundreds have asked me for this. So I think that it's a short time until that's true, and I think we're going to ship it anyway, even though no one's asking for it. But the headless product allows you to sit down. Imagine this world. A restaurant marketer sits down, opens up Claude and says, tell me about our revenue the last week. And Claude just goes and runs a query and comes back and says, this is your revenue. And then they say, but wait a minute, didn't we run a bunch of marketing campaigns last week? And it says, yes, you ran these campaigns. Well, did any of those campaigns appear to have driven these revenue numbers? Yes, these 3 campaigns drove those revenue numbers. Well, why didn't the overall revenue increase if that's true? And then Claude would say like, oh, you had 2 stores that were closed last week and it seemed to hide the lift. So your campaign did work. And like all of that kind of conversation followed by, well, we should double down on that concept again. You know, like let's take the campaigns that work the most and let's run some new campaigns that look like that one. And then Claude says, great, I've created those campaigns. Would you like for me to send them? All of that. It should be that same level of lift that you and I, Sterling, get every day because we've now worked this way.
I'm not going to lie. I just had a really good product idea and I wrote it down while you were talking through all of that. I'm not kidding.
I feel like you're compelled to share what it is.
For
those of you who cannot see Sterling, he is genuinely red right now.
Yeah, I know. I like literally as you were talking, like you gave me this really, I think it's going to be a really good product idea.
What?
So I just typed in. It's related to our Google Ads product and how we're showing some of the analysis that we've done, and whatever you said just like sparked it in my head. So I'm like, I have to write this idea down right now so that I can work on it. That's
funny. That's genuinely funny.
So thank you. And this podcast has now provided me value today.
I look forward to some sort of royalty on that. Continue.
Yeah, I'll give you credit. I'll put a little, at, Aaron, somewhere in there. I agree with everything that you said, and like tie the parts that I was listening to, the part tying it to like the outcome and the dollars about. I think personally that certain products are going to take a lot longer to become the headless product that the restaurant of the future needs.
I think that goes back to blast radius. Like to me, the things that in our headless product requirements, everything is read only, and you can draft things, but you can't send them unless you log in to the dashboard, look at it with your own eyeballs, where you can see us framing in our visual design language what you're about to hit send on, or the change you're about to publish. Like that's the guardrail part of it is where we need to make sure that the output matches your intention in a really thoughtful way.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I actually hadn't really thought about that, but I think about our so we have like a design agent for our online ordering tool, and we have this really nifty like CMS. I'm sure you guys have something similar, but it's basically got like 1,500 different design decisions.
Yeah.
Right. Everything from like fonts, how curved buttons are, hover states, all that stuff. Like all that stuff, how the cards are laid out vertical. Do we show description on mobile? All of that. It all ends up converting into a JSON config. So it's actually really easy to work with and well documented. You feed that in. Now you have an agent and you can say, all right, I want this to be green, right? Like because that's my new primary color. And I also want like, this looks really nice, but I want this to be gray. Well, anybody who has been in the space knows green and gray, like that can cause potential issues with accessibility. And so those are the types of guardrails that you have to put in place. So anytime there's like regulatory environment, anytime there is, or like menu schemas where you have really, really complicated menu engines that you need to run, like the amount of permutations there are in the millions. These are situations where it's like, yeah, like Charlie's got APIs for days. That was our whole company. That's all we were for years. We're just an API as a service. So you'd think that we'd be able to do this quickly, but those things are going to end up taking longer because when you open the kimono to be able to do anything, you actually have to think about which of those anythings are actually problems and not solutions.
Great example.
And you don't have everyone to kind of get the context on. And so I think that like all great products are going to become headless, but I also think that some products are going to take longer than others. I think about everything that I've built, and that's all we're doing, right? If we were to add on a new vendor today, the only thing I care about is, do you have an MCP? Is there a skill? How's the API? Does it cover everything?
Yeah.
Because they never do. All right. Like those are the questions, my first questions I ask now.
And I can see the maturity of our own, the industry we serve isn't quite at that place yet. Most indicated in the fact that I get RFPs daily that talk about it, none at all. That they're
really still
none at all. Like it might ask questions like, what is on your AI roadmap? Or do you have AI that do these things for me? And it might ask, do you have APIs if I want to build to you, if I want to plug into you? And the answer is yes. But
do you have
I don't think I've seen the letters
worst...
NCP anywhere in any RFP ever. And these are like major, these are national brands that send us RFPs. It's not on their radar because they don't yet live in a Claude powered world.
Yeah. So when it comes to the headless products, like if you're a restaurant and you're looking at whether it's a point of sale or a loyalty vendor or online ordering, like, see, these are the questions you have to start asking. You're not going to get many yeses. I mean, we don't have that, and we're one of the most AI forward companies there are. Same with, you guys have like certain parts of it, but I think that's just something
I would love nothing more than
as a single location unit. You should be asking this, even if you're not going to use it today, because you're going to use it 6 months from now.
I would love nothing more than for a really big deal to land on my sales team lap that says, it is a condition for us buying your product that you have, open API access for Claude to be able to do most of my work. It would thrill me.
There is a multi-billion-dollar company that we use as a vendor. We've been using them since they were a Series A company. I've been a huge advocate of them. I use the tool a ton. And I started using it a lot less, towards the end of last year and early this year. Not just because of Claude Code, but just because of my role, and my role changes every 3 to 6 months. And so I just didn't get in this tool much. And they just did this big product announcement, and they wanted me to come to this little product meeting with a chief product officer, and they wanted to talk about agents and all the AI stuff they were doing. And they talked about like their API and how it's so great for it. And they finished the section without ever actually saying like what was available into it. So I asked. I said, I listed off like 2 use cases, and I'm like, I want to be able to do this and this through the API because then I can do it through Claude Code. And they said, oh, well, no, we don't have that type of coverage. And so I'm like, well, how much coverage do you have? And then they gave me some number like 30%. I actually have no idea what that number means, but I was like, oh man, like this is exactly what restaurants go through. Right? Mm-hmm. Like they said they had an API, they said they're AI enabled, they have this little built-in agent, a thing you can chat with, but so much of their product is not surfaced through the API, and they don't have an MCP. And so now I'm like, okay, like they're on the clock.
Yeah.
Because by the time I circle back, to this product and we need to do stuff with it and it is not there, I'm going to go find something else. And I think in this particular space, I think it's moving a bit faster than the restaurant space.
Certainly,
barriers.
Software being sold to other software companies, it's like table stakes. I want to make it table stakes for restaurants, so we're going to be launching something like that this summer. It's just,
is that breaking news? Is that breaking news? Is your marketing department going to be mad about this?
I feel like it's more like a prognostication and a gauntlet thrown. I feel like I have to do it, or I'll die.
I want you to know, Aaron, people from restaurant business listen to this podcast. People from the Wall Street Journal listen to this.
Maybe it's
this might be breaking news.
If I say it, and then people who are listening to it say to my sales team and my customer success team, I got to have it, then it'll be easier for me to make sure that it happens. I want all of those things. I guess
all right, gotcha.
What I would say is my organization is aligned with the fact that this is the thing we must do. The problem is my customer is not. If I look at the number one most requested thing, our R&D team is essentially always working on the number one thing our customers want, because whenever we ship it, we're left with the next thing on the list, which is now their number one most requested thing. And this isn't on the list even at the bottom. And so I want it to be, though.
I'll make sure that it doesn't come out, and we'll put it as the cold open. All right. The next thing then I think that's on our list today. You actually pointed this to me. So there was an article, it was by Sequoia, right? That came out and talked about the difference between 2025 AI and 2026 AI.
I think it's totally related to, even the posture of building software that can be interacted with in a headless way. But the difference really is moving from software that is like a co-pilot that helps you work into software that does the work. It's the difference between software that helps you close, let's say accounting software that helps you close the books versus software that closes the books. So I'll give you a really simplistic example. If right now I'm willing to pay whoever, H&R Block, to do my taxes $500, if there were an AI product that could do my taxes for $100 and it didn't have errors and I could trust it, well, it has delivered the outcome I want. There's clearly money on the table from me to pay someone to do it. And I would absolutely pay this thing, which is more efficient, to do it. I think that kind of mindset is kind of everywhere. And I think that in the restaurant space, there are a lot of opportunities to go create agents that deliver the outcome rather than agents that just make people who are producing the outcome more efficient, which allows those people to go do things that have more value.
Something that I track, well, Claude tracks for me, is the percentage of tasks that it does to completion autonomously versus the ones that I do either more steering or reviewing. And it's a rate that I kind of look at each week. And that is exactly like, it's almost like the rate is like percentage of your tasks that are 2025 AI and percentage of your tasks that are 2026 AI. And it fluctuates. One of the interesting things is that as my tasks kind of change types, it fluctuates. So it actually went up a ton when I started doing a bit more building on some like specific applications and some agents that we were doing. It was doing a lot more because that particular kind of workflow, it's a bit more conditioned to be able to do that all the way. Whereas when I was spending a bit more work on some of the operational things, or like I built my board deck, using AI, like that one had constant steering. Like I reviewed every single word that went on there, and was like really, really particular. And so it almost like depends on the type of work for me. But I do know that our next board meeting, I'm definitely going to be able to go faster. I'm still going to read every word, but I might read it later in the process and do some editing later on.
So we have you and I don't really talk about like product releases and stuff like that a lot here, although I just did make a promise of my roadmap. But I do want to talk about a thing that we're building now because it fits into this rubric. And so I'm the world's worst salesman. As I've previously noted, I've ruined deals easily.
It's well documented.
Yes, it's totally documented. But I want to talk about an example of what I mean about AI that just does the work. So the product we are launching in a couple of weeks is a recovery product. Today, most restaurants operate with a feedback system that has a lot of latency and a lot of cost. You're paying a human being to read a message from a dissatisfied customer because they ordered fries and they weren't in the bag. And then they're trying to do remediation. And let's say that you pay this human being to spend 5 or 10 minutes solving that customer's problem. Like that's real money you're paying for an individual to do that. But then you have, on top of that, the data is really clear that making the consumer wait for that message a day, 2 days, now you're reminding them that they had a bad experience.
Because they forgot about it.
Yeah. The analogy here is, when Amazon entered the market, they needed to create confidence that if you ordered shoes or whatever through this thing, that it was going to be effortless if it went wrong, so that you would feel confidence in making that purchase. They look at recovery as a conversion tool. 92% of their customers who have something go wrong with an order on Amazon make a subsequent purchase because they establish confidence. This is going to be hassle-free. But restaurants today, when they order food and it goes sideways on the first-party system, it's anything but. I got to like call somebody. Are you kidding me? I got to send an email and wait. Meanwhile, if you order on DoorDash, you just click a button and they give you the money back. But even that is like so offensive because if I order from restaurant A and my fries are missing, and then I get store credit on DoorDash that I can use at restaurant B. I'm literally taking restaurant A's money.
I was going to say, because DoorDash
B.
ain't paying for that.
No.
The restaurants.
They're literally buying the confidence from the consumer to order on DoorDash with the restaurant's money. And the restaurant's first-party platform doesn't have the equivalent. So what we're launching is a recovery product that is not a feedback product. Like, you should still have a feedback product, but the question of, was your visit satisfactory today, is inclusive of the fact that we immediately solve the problem of you don't have your fries. And so,
how do you immediately solve it? Are you giving them promo code, loyalty points, I don't want to card?
I'm happy to answer all of your questions, not being cagey, but I also don't want to go like too deep into like describing every single nook and cranny of this product. Mostly just because I don't think that's what we spend all our time on. But to answer your question, there are numerous things that you get to configure, one of which is...
Welcome to the Thanx product roadmap meeting.
This is why I'm a bad salesperson. A salesperson would be like, let me tell you why it's great. No, one of the things you do is you get to choose the tools you can use for remediation.
Sure.
And that might be, I'm going to give you an offer for those free fries that you can redeem on a subsequent purchase, or I'm going to give you an offer plus some bonus points that you can use on whatever you want. So like you choose like a menu of choices that you want the AI to have. But I'm going to get back to the point that I was making, which is that's a product that delivers the outcome. I'm going to immediately remedy the problem. I'm not going to wait for a human being in the equation. And the thing I'm going to measure against is, did they make a subsequent purchase quickly? Because if I can get them to do that sooner, it's literally frequency compression, which is what restaurants tell us they want. But I'm also saving time from the person in the restaurant from having to engage with every single thing.
You have so many good 2-word phrases today.
What did I say this time?
Compression.
Frequency compression. Oh, yeah.
I love that. That's true in any business, right? Like even as a tech company, like you're going to have issues. If you can deliver a great first support experience when they have an issue, right? You actually have a happier customer than you did before the issue even occurred.
Yeah.
Assuming that it's not like catastrophic or anything. And it's the same thing in restaurants. I mean, I look at the restaurants that we work with that have the highest percentage of digital sales from first-party orders. They do this, and they do this manually, exactly what you talked about, immediate remediation and recovery. The restaurants that are on our asses the most about these particular issues, the ones who respond to the feedback surveys that we send out the fastest, the ones who complain to us when a DoorDash driver, forgets the fries, those restaurants are the ones where I see like 60% of all of their digital sales are coming from first party.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, zooming away from the product story I just told, the main thing that I'm really talking about is, if you look around you, most people aren't comfortable with the idea of AI like controlling the reins, like being in charge of making decisions. But as the models continue to improve and we continue to create better context and better tooling and better guardrails, the more we can allow it to deliver the whole outcome, the better. The more we can get the leverage out of it, the better we are at serving our customer, all of those kinds of things.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. And with that, I'm also going to agree to wrap up this episode. This was a good one, Aaron. 8 episodes in, we talked about the difference between a product code base and operations code base, things that restaurants should definitely build themselves today and demand from their vendors, and things maybe they should not. We talked about the whole concept of a headless product, which was basically mind-blowing for me. I had a fantastic product idea that Aaron gave me live on the show. And we talked about and we talked about kind of the difference between 2025 AI, 2026 AI, and really what we should be trying to go towards when you want outcomes, full outcomes from the use of AI. And with that, anything else to add?
Yeah, if in the middle of this conversation today, you two had an amazing product idea, I do accept stock or cash. But also, if you're confused by anything you heard today, just ask Claude.
And don't forget, like episodes, follow, subscribe to us. It helps other people who might be interested in AI or restaurants or both find this. It also helps Aaron and I's egos, which is obviously the most important thing. But with that, we'll sign off. Thanks, everybody.